us here on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. How good do you think Shedeur Sanders actually is?
I think the problems are starting to show they had in Colorado, and they're fixable. He just has to fix them, right? He needs to be more in rhythm. Now, of course, you would hope that with more practice and some more time, game reps and whatnot, that rhythm will come. But that's what's holding him back now, I think, is that you watch them play, it's just not it's not on time and where it's supposed to be, when the ball's supposed to be out. That's a big part of playing the position, right? You might know where the ball's going, but if you don't throw it on time, so everyone is hurt. That time to throw number is very, very slow, and you cannot operate playing that slow at that position. The ball's got to be gone as quick as possible. So if he can keep improving there, I think he's got a chance. The thing I thought about Sanders, even if he was drafted 20th overall, these are things he had to work on from college. And the one thing that's very difficult we're finding with more data now is if you get sacked a lot in college, you gotta get sacked a lot in the NFL. Like that just sort of, it's hard to break that habit. And Caleb Williams doing a good job of it this year, breaking that habit. He was sacked a ton at USC, and he's sort of breaking that this year. So you certainly can do it, but it does take a while. So I think for Sanders, just sort of continuing to just learn to play more on rhythm, I think, is the biggest improvement he can make right now.
It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. Jeff Schwartz is our guest. Okay, Bears Packers this weekend. Before they play the Packers, are you a believer in the legitimacy of the Bears?
Legitimate, like they're going to win the NFC, or just sort of they've gotten better?
Well, I mean, they clearly got better. I don't think anybody can argue that. But right now, they're the number one seed.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, do you think of them at the level of the rest of the teams that are likely to make the playoffs?
I don't, but I'll tell you what I really do like about what I'm seeing from Chicago. So you have a new coach, even new coordinators, new quarterback. They have all of those all at once in Chicago. It takes about 8 to 12 weeks in the regular season to start really noticing, good or bad, whether the coordinator is going to work. The flip side of this might be what we're seeing in Philly right now, where the offense has come to a complete grinding halt about the same time as the Bears offense is taking off, and that's what I see. What I see is that whatever Ben Johnson's coaching, whatever they're doing in that building, it's working, and we're seeing that happen. I know the Eagles have their problem, but that was a very validating win on Friday night because they did it physically, right? They physically beat a team that we don't see get physically beat the line of scrimmage very, very often. And so I think what is happening in Chicago is that whenever Ben Johnson's coaching, he's preaching, he's teaching, that includes his staff, by the way, it's really paying off. As we're seeing that success, and we're seeing sort of every quarter of the season, we're now basically in quarter 4, that Caleb Williams is getting better. And you want him playing better in every quarter, obviously, because I think individual games are hard to evaluate, just bad game, good game. It's more just like over 4 games, right? How's he playing? And so I think you'll be really excited right now if you're a Bears fan about the future of the team. It's not good enough to win a championship this year, probably not good enough to make an NFC championship game, but the future is pretty bright. I mean, this is exactly where you would like to be this time of year with a brand new coach.
It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. Jeff Schwartz is joining us here on Sunday mornings on Fox Sports Radio, leading you all the way up to kickoff. All right, let's get to the college football rankings. Indiana at 2, Ohio State at 1. Let's start, and you got Oregon, you're an Duck alum. They're all in the top 5, and then there's nobody else, right, in the Big Ten that's in the mix there. What's your best guess on what happens in the Big Ten championship game? That doesn't mean much, but it does mean who will be the number 1 overall seed.
I think Ohio State wins. I think they're better than Indiana. I don't think they're as good as last year, right? The result we saw last season. But I do think that they're better. I think that they're defensively. We saw Indiana play the 2 best defense they played this year. They did score 30 against Oregon, but Mendoza only threw for 215 in that game. A couple turnovers late added to that, and they gave up 7 points almost to Oregon with a pick 6. And then we still play Iowa. And Iowa was a really tough game for them. They needed a late touchdown to get over 200 yards passing. And I think that, I don't think they can win this game going for 200 yards. So they're going to have to do a little more than that. Now, I'm really excited to see Ohio State's offense and Indiana's defense. Indiana, I'll tell you what, man, they're a fascinating team, Doug, because they don't do what I would consider like a lot. Like What they do offensively, inside zone, RPO, throw out the numbers. Defensively, ton of zone. Might be the most zone in the country. And then they run these zone pressures, and they do it so well, so crisp. They're so well coached. They don't make mistakes. They don't have mental errors. But it's really hard to beat them over 60 minutes. When you play a team that's not as good, you're just not going to do it. Now, Ohio State is good enough, right, to sort of play that style of game with them for that long. So I think Ohio State wins. I think it's a really low-scoring game, and I do believe that both will still have a bye after this weekend.
A simplicity in execution. Okay. So what happens to the rest of the bracket? Like Alabama, let's say they lose to Georgia. Now they have 3 losses. What happens? Again, let's say BYU loses to Texas Tech.
Okay.
So they likely fall out, right? BYU loses, they're out. Okay, they're out. Notre Dame doesn't play, so they would be in. Miami doesn't play, right? They would be in. Okay, and then you have Texas, would have 3 losses. Okay, does it become Texas or Alabama? And then you kind of keep looking down and then go like, okay, then we got Vanderbilt as well. What happens if Alabama loses?
Good question. Last year, they did not punish SMU for losing the ACC championship game, and so I don't know if that's a precedent that they're gonna always have, or just have it from last season. That was, I believe, a 3-point game last year. If this is a blowout, I do think Alabama could be out. The thing is that they have to get Miami in and Notre Dame, or just Miami. Look, I get the argument that right now I would bet, and I agree with this, on Notre Dame to win a game against Miami. Absolutely. But the game did happen. It actually happened. And if you ignore the result of that game in a head-to-head, you're invalidating all that we do in sports, right? All the games you play. And so I just think they have to find a way to get Miami in, and maybe that's how they get in, right? Bama loses and they drop out, and you put Miami and Notre Dame in, and everyone's really happy. But that has to happen somehow. Worst case scenario, obviously, BYU wins, and then you have to sort of figure out how we get everyone in. But or maybe in that situation, it's just Miami and not Notre Dame. And I totally get it. It was week 1, but the game did happen. I think if you ignore the result of that game, you're really setting a bad precedent about these non-conference games. Why would you play these games if they don't count toward the postseason? That's the point, really, of playing a big game like that. Is it's a tiebreaker for possible seeding in the postseason.
Ole Miss. What do you do with Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin gone, but Charlie Weiss Jr. back on plays?
They make this up every year as they go, don't they? Well, they showed you last night that they're not going to Florida State them, right? Where Florida State was dropped out because the quarterback was out, and we did get to see one game without that quarterback, so they made a little easier decision to make there in that season. I think that they're going to keep them where they are, and just hope that they don't blow up in a postseason. I do think it's going to be really, really hard without Lane Kiffin. I know Weiss is back. I get that, but Lane is the offensive guy. He's your offensive guru, and him not being there, I think is really going to matter toward the end result for this game. So I'm kind of curious to see how it ends up. But the committee told you last night that they don't care because they didn't drop them, and they're not playing this week. So how much can you really drop a team that's not playing? So I think it was the right decision, right? You don't want to punish the players and the staff that's still there because your coach left. It's not their fault that happened, and maybe because it was so messy, they felt like even more